And so not only is it important for us to think about understanding Scripture and applying Scripture appropriately in our own personal lives, right? That what does this mean to me kind of approach, but it's also important for us to think about, especially if we're going into ministry, or if we're going to serve a church in any way, thinking about how do I work through this with a congregation, with a group of believers, to try and make sure that we're doing what God would want. Last questions, final comments. All right, let's transition then. This second section now of the course is going to be focused on the academic side, the logistics of research in biblical studies. As I mentioned, there in the program here at Faulkner, there is an emphasis on doing research in biblical studies in a variety of classes, a lot of your textual classes, but some other classes as well. And so it's important to kind of have awareness as we begin of some of the approaches to take, some of the things that are available to do research, not just because there's a research paper in this course, but because you'll see that a lot. Additionally, it's also helpful in thinking about, if you go into any type of ministry, whether it's a youth ministry, whether that's pulpit ministry, whether that is just, I'm a Bible class teacher at times and I do something else as my full-time job, there's going to be questions that come up that you don't immediately know the answers to. And so while you're not going to end up writing a 15-page, 10-page research paper, having those skills and those tools of where do I go to answer these kind of questions? What tools can help me to answer these kind of questions? What's available out there for me to try and find an answer to this person's question or my own question? That's an important concept, even if you might never, once you graduate, write another academic paper. These skills, these tools will be helpful for you no matter where you end up in ministry. And so for the next couple weeks, Lord willing, we'll be focusing on different tools available, what's available, what are the advantages of using these tools, what are some disadvantages to look out for, and so basically looking at a variety of tools and practices. And then the last part we'll be thinking about constructing a research paper as far as the bits and pieces and all those kinds of things. So when it comes to tools for biblical studies research, there's a couple things to think about to begin with, right, before we specifically get into general reference works. What is a tool? Just in general, when you talk about something being a tool, what are you talking about? Whether that's to build a house or whether that's to do a research paper, what's a tool? All right, it's a helpful item. How else might you describe it?
Resource.
All right, resource. Instrument. All right. What is the purpose of using a tool?
To use the job easier.
Make the job easier. To fix. Right? I mean, the ultimate goal is you're trying to accomplish something. Right? I'm trying to accomplish something, and this tool will either help me accomplish that because I can't do it without the tool, or it'll make it easier for me to accomplish that. So ultimately, it's important to remember that tools are useful. The whole purpose of using a tool is it will help you accomplish something. Right? Because if something doesn't help you in accomplishing a task, it is not a tool. So the whole purpose of using tools in biblical studies, whether from an academic standpoint or a ministerial standpoint, is it is meant to help you accomplish, right, answering some sort of question. Right? Particularly with respect to research, the whole point of using tools is to gather information and viewpoints, material that you did not know before. Right? So tools help you access some information, particularly in a biblical studies context. Now, certainly you can use the wrong tool, or the tool that you choose may not be a tool that actually helps you accomplish what you're intending. But no matter what you do or what tools you use in biblical studies research, it's important to remember that any tool you use should not replace critical thinking. Oh, well, this book says this, so that must be true. If you take that kind of position, you are not engaging in critical thinking, meaning that you're not thinking through and asking questions and really kind of approaching a tool with a hermeneutic of suspicion, let's say. All right, unless you convince me, I'm not going to be swayed by your argument. All right, so you have to really convince me that this is the case. And so you shouldn't approach any sort of biblical studies question, whether that's an academic standpoint or whether that's a ministerial standpoint, by saying, I have this question, so I'm just going to look it up in this book, and then that's going to be the answer. So make sure that you don't use tools uncritically, especially in biblical studies research. Our focus today is going to be on general reference tools. There are a variety of tools, and the next several classes we'll talk about them, but today we're focusing on general reference tools. Now there's a couple things related to some of those words. Now, hold on, I lost my... There we go. First of all, the idea behind a reference tool is it's meant to be referred to, right? It's not the end, it's just kind of a quick overview. It's also meant to be something that you come back to, right? And so you refer back to it, right? And as you develop different questions, right? So a reference tool is going to be something that is meant to be gone to multiple times. It's not just you do it once and then that's it. Additionally, reference tools refer you to other sources. Right? So good general reference tools will give you an overview of a subject, but will then also point you to other tools or other sources that you can use in addressing your question. And so that, if it doesn't have that component of saying see also or bibliography or something like that, it might not be the best for your use. It's general in the sense that it is a tool that includes multiple topics. Right? It is not focused on one specific topic, but includes multiple things that are addressed. Additionally, we're referring to things that are general in the sense that they are an overview. Right? A general reference tool is meant to give you just a brief overview of a particular subject. Right? It's not a deep, in-depth, exhaustive, comprehensive examination of a specific subject. When it comes to biblical studies, and general reference works in general, there are a couple of tools out there that we would classify as general reference tools. Things like dictionaries. A dictionary would be a general reference tool. An encyclopedia would be a general reference tool. Handbooks and directories. These are the kind of things that would be under this rubric of general reference tools. So the point of using a general reference tool is, like a dictionary or an encyclopedia, is to give you a brief overview about a subject. Let's say you're in a class and you want to do, or you're assigned to do, a paper on, it's just an overview of the field of archaeology, right, related to a specific subject. Let's say Jericho. Right, archaeology in Jericho. Right, that's the subject you chose or was chosen for. Right. a general reference tool is going to help you as a starting place, right? So you can look up archaeology, right? Or you can look up Jericho. But it should not be the stopping place, right? This is the first place you go, right? Because that reference, right, is going to point you to other subjects, right? And so if you go to a Bible encyclopedia and you look up Jericho, if it's a good Bible encyclopedia, at the end it will give you a list of references about Jericho, right? Manuscripts, journal articles that'll help you, again, find out more about archaeology in Jericho. Right? If you are doing a paper on some specific event in the life of Christ, let's say how Jesus treated Samaritans, right? And so you're doing a paper on Jesus' treatment of Samaritans. You might go to a dictionary like the Dictionary of Jesus in the Gospels, published by Bergman. So you look up Samaritans. So you read through Samaritans. It's going to give you an overview of the Samaritans. It's going to talk about how the Samaritans are presented in the Gospels. But it's also going to point you to other works, right? Journal articles, commentaries, right? Those kinds of things that are going to help you with those ideas. So these things should be a starting point, not a finish point. Let's talk about some of the differences and express what's different between a dictionary, encyclopedia, a handbook. A directory, of course, I think we probably don't need to really spend too much time on. They're probably not going to be that useful for you. If you were doing, let's say, a congregational study, right, and you wanted to do something related to the congregations of a specific religious group, right? And so you're going to do more of a social scientific study, right? So you're going to do surveys and those kind of things. Then you might use a directory to find where are some churches I can go to, right? Who are some people I can contact to get in touch with these churches I want to survey, right? But in most cases, the research you're going to be doing is probably not going to, directory is probably not going to really help you that much. So we'll just focus on encyclopedias, dictionaries, and handbooks. Dictionaries tend to be single volume works. It's one of the things that distinguishes them from encyclopedias. Dictionaries usually contain everything in one work. Now, you can have like multi-volume dictionary sets. I believe it's Ehrman's, but it might not be Ehrman's now that I think about it. But they have a really good set that I would recommend. It's a dictionary of Jesus in the Gospels, dictionary of Paul and his letters, dictionary of the later New Testament and its development, and I think that's the three. All right, 3-volume set. Each one, though, is focused, right? And so there's just one volume on Jesus in the Gospels. But it's a dictionary, it's not an encyclopedia, even though there's like multiple volumes related to the New Testament. Dictionaries tend to focus on words and their definitions. So just like you think any type of dictionary, when it comes to biblical studies, it's the same kind of thing, defining words. So when you think about, all right, here's my topic. I don't know much about it. Dictionary might be a good place if you're not sure what the words mean, what the kind of concepts you're talking about. Dictionaries in general tend to be brief in their entries. Something like the Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels is unusual because some of the articles are several pages. But in most cases, if you're looking at a Bible dictionary, it is just going to be maybe a couple columns on one page. And it's not going to be 10, 12, 15 pages. But although we think of dictionaries predominantly as focusing on words, I think we can think about specialized dictionaries. Right? And so we're not just talking about I need to know the definition of a specific word like photosynthesis, and so I look it up in the dictionary. There are Bible dictionaries. There are dictionaries related to specific theology, specifics about theology. There are dictionaries related to individuals. And so there are a lot of specialized dictionaries out there other than just like an Oxford English Dictionary. All right, so dictionary might be a good place to go if you're not sure what a word means or a concept is, and you just want to get started with a brief overview. Questions about dictionaries? If you need to clarify. Another type of general reference work, of course, is the encyclopedia. Encyclopedias, while they don't have to be, you can have a single volume encyclopedia, it's less likely you're going to find that. All right? One of the main differences between dictionaries and encyclopedias is that encyclopedias tend to be multi-volume works that are usually divided by letters. Right? This volume covers A through M, and this volume covers N through Z. Encyclopedias as well can be generalized or specialized, right? So you could have something like the Encyclopedia Britannica, the World Book Encyclopedia. There's a variety of encyclopedias like that, which are just covering general knowledge about a wide variety of subjects, which may or may not be helpful for you in a specific a specific topic, right? And so you're wanting to do a paper on Christianity in Latin America. You could go to an Encyclopedia Britannica and look up Latin America, look up Christianity, and there might be a section on that. Or you can go to specialized encyclopedias of the Bible, of religious history, of all sorts of different encyclopedias. Encyclopedia of Christianity or Christian civilization. So we keep those in mind. It too is meant to be an overview, right? Just like the dictionary is an overview of words and definitions, the encyclopedia is an overview of topics. It's not meant to be an extensive examination. The articles in encyclopedias tend to be longer than those in dictionaries. And so while a dictionary might help you understand a specific concept or help you with some of the words, an encyclopedia is going to expand that a little bit. Right? It's going to, if you're doing, let's say, if you're doing a paper again on archaeology in Jericho, you might look up Jericho in a dictionary, and it's going to give you an overview of Jericho, but it's not going to give you too much. It'll probably just say something like, right, a city in Canaan that was conquered by Joshua in Joshua chapter 6, right? And it's just going to be a brief thing. But in this Bible encyclopedia, you're going to have a longer discussion. And so it might give you a background, what we know about Jericho prior to the conquest of Joshua. Archaeological discoveries that might have been done around that area, right? So it's going to provide you a more detailed example. But what's especially useful in those encyclopedias, especially the specialized ones, is that bibliography. That's the thing that's going to point you to the other tools that are going to be helpful. Handbooks. What's the difference between dictionaries, encyclopedias, and handbooks? Well, handbooks tend to be more specifically focused than dictionaries and encyclopedias. They can get really focused, specialized. Most handbooks tend to focus on a specific issue in a specific field. And so it might be focused, you might have a handbook on biblical archaeology. You could have an encyclopedia on biblical archaeology. But the focus of the handbook might be more attention to things like the methods of archaeology. And so while you might look up archaeology in a encyclopedia, a biblical encyclopedia, and it's going to give you an overview of, let's say, the history of archaeology. And biblical archaeology as a field started in the 19th century, and here are some of the major figures in early archaeology and what's happened, major discoveries that have taken place, right, in 3-4 pages. But it's just an overview. The handbook, however, might get more in depth, might have a section on biblical archaeology, but it might also say, it might also have a chapter that focuses on some of the issues that have come up in biblical archaeology, of Westerners coming to some of these places and then taking the objects found back to their museums instead of leaving them in the country that they were discovered in. Right? And so the focus might be more on issues, methods, how to approach sometimes. The focus of the handbook, well, the handbook tends to be more focused, right? And so they're often more concise. Still an overview in many respects, right? Because it too will often give you a bibliography of additional works on specific subjects or issues, but it is, again, more focused than the encyclopedia or the dictionary.